Luck comes in many forms. For some, it could be hanging a horseshoe over their door. For others, it could be finding a 4-leaf clover in their yard. But can you imagine the best luck you've ever had and multiply it by 100? No matter what you did, you'd always come out on top. Everything would go in your favor all the time. It seems too good to be true, but is it? In the 1700s, before the United States was its own country, a child was born that would test the boundaries of his luck time and time again. As he grew older, despite incredible odds and all the chips stacked against him, Timothy Dexter seemed like he could never lose. But what looks bright and shiny on the outside may not always be the case within. I'm Christiana.
And I'm Bree.
Settle in and wish for good luck.
Because you're about to hear something strange.
Welcome to episode 33, Timothy Dexter.
I know absolutely nothing.
This is a very obscure historical figure. I don't know how he is so obscure because he is wild. I don't necessarily have any trigger warnings for this episode except for just people being kind of mean and also potential discussions of like mental health, but nothing too terrible. And I want to give a shout out to Mr. Ballen, who is on multiple platforms at this point. He's on YouTube. He has a podcast. He's everywhere. This is where I first learned about this historical figure. And I think I told you this story. The first time I ever heard the story of this man, Mr. Ballen's coverage of him, which I do have that video linked in the show notes. I encourage everyone to go watch it and just watch Mr. Ballen in general. He's fantastic. I laughed hysterically because I was like, what is with this man? This is an insane story. But the further I went into this research, the more I was kind of like, maybe this is actually kind of sad. So I'm very excited to hear your take the further we get into this. Actually, you know what? I do want to put a trigger warning in here for some references to domestic violence. I'm not going to go into it extremely, but it is worthy to mention. So, Timothy Dexter was many things. He was eccentric. He was a businessman. He was extremely, extremely wealthy. And he was extremely, extremely lucky, or possibly very, very shrewd. And I want to say at the top of the story, I had a bit of a hard time getting a correct timeline together for this guy's life, particularly the further along his life went. Like, everything was pretty straightforward through his childhood. The further events went along, the more I was having a little bit of a hard time telling what event went where because 3 separate sources gave 3 separate timelines. So,
is that due to the time frame?
I think it might be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, before, like, the mid-1900s, like even the early 1900s, things weren't always.
There is one definite event that I know for certain when it happened because it's to do with another coinciding major event in United States history. But I did my best here. I am referencing all of these specific events that happened through his life, and I'm going to try to keep them all straight. A little bit of backstory. Timothy Dexter was born on January 22nd, 1747 in the town of Malden. This was then the province of Massachusetts Bay. Massachusetts was not a state yet, so I don't want to say the state of Massachusetts. This is pre-American Revolution.
What would currently be the state of Massachusetts?
Yes, correct. He was of Irish and English descent, and his family was extremely poor. Like, they were impoverished. Timothy received very, very little education, I think due to how poor his family was. That wasn't explicitly stated that it was because of how poor his family was, but that's what I gathered. He literally left school at age 8. He had nothing beyond what would be today a second grade education. And when he left at 8 years old, it was to become a farmhand, and he remained an indentured servant on this farm for nearly a decade.
I don't know that was super uncommon during that time period, though.
Yeah, I don't think it was necessarily, especially I think depending on like what caste you were in, so to speak.
I mean, I think 8 is probably younger than average. Like, I think a lot of people didn't have above like an 8th grade education.
Yeah.
Also, depending on like if a family owned a farm, right, it wasn't uncommon to pull the kids out of school once they understood how to do basic reading and math.
Yes. And in this case, I don't even know that he knew how the basics of that. I think he could at least sort of maybe read a little bit based, again, this is based on like other things we'll see how his life goes, and I'll let you kind of take inferences from that. But because of his lack of education, he was practically illiterate for his entire life. So when Timothy reached age 16, one of my sources did say it was 14, he found an apprenticeship with a tanner.
Do you want to hear another weird tie-in?
Yes.
So we just finished recording my snapshot, which was the Hawk Mountain hauntings, and we talked about my dad's encounter. Do you know what industry my dad worked in for like 35, 40 years?
Oh my gosh, you're right. He was in the tannery business.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's so weird.
I'm just dropping family lore today.
That's crazy.
All connected.
It is all connected. It's all coming together. All right. At the completion of his apprenticeship, his employer actually gifted him with an entirely new suit of clothing, and this was called a freedom suit.
And how, like, did he, I'm jumping ahead, did he stay in the tanning industry?
We'll get there.
Because, like, that's such a hard job. Like, my dad was working at tannery before OSHA.
Yeah.
Right. But, like, I can imagine we're talking the 1700s. I bet that was even more dangerous then.
Dangerous, and it's a lot of chemical work, isn't it? On, so hard on your hands, hard on your body.
That would be a question for my dad.
True.
Because I know they do like vegetable tanning, and then they do like other kinds of tanning. But I do think it is very chemical heavy.
Yeah. I'm not sure what it would have been used. I mean, I don't know much about tannery besides that it's leather making essentially, or leather processing, I guess would be more but in this day and age, I don't know if like lye would have been used, but I'm sure it wouldn't have been particularly healthy. So
another question for my dad.
Yeah, truly. But from what I understood of my sources, it sounds like because he was gifted this freedom suit, he must have been a pretty hard worker. He was very studious, very committed to what he was doing. 6 years later, at 22 years old, Timothy relocated to the town of Newburyport, Massachusetts. He drew the money together to move by selling this freedom suit. So this was like his best set of clothing. He received $8.20 for it. And in today's money, that would be, rounding up the change, $350. So
that's a nice suit.
It's a nice suit. And that was pretty industrious for him. And I have to wonder, I'm like, that's also kind of sad, because if he was as poor as he was, like that being his nicest set of clothing, I don't know if he was necessarily like in rags, but he certainly probably didn't have anything near the quality of that. So to give that up, I'm like, that's pretty smart. If you were ready to relocate and you really needed to pull the money together, so good on him. It was around this point that Timothy started to come into some money, and the strangeness began. After moving to Newburyport, Timothy married one Elizabeth Frothingham.
What a fun name.
I know, right? Elizabeth was 32 years old, and she was a widow.
How old was he?
22. And especially in that day and age, I don't think that was necessarily that unusual.
Sorry, we jumped from 16 or 14, and I was like, wait, no, there's a time jump in there. Okay.
Yeah, there was a time jump in there.
That's what I was concerned for a second.
There wasn't a whole lot on his like early childhood outside of like, he got the apprenticeship. He got, he was very poor. He was out of school at age 8. So we're kind of jumping pretty quickly here. Notably, she was also pretty well off. She owned a house and also had 4 children. I don't know anything about these children. I did not get much about them in my research. With this marriage, Timothy naturally came into some money. I want to note here, one of my sources said Timothy used this money to buy a mansion, but one of my other sources stated that he just moved in with Elizabeth in the house that she already owned.
Could he have moved into that house and also bought like a summer mansion?
I think it's one or the other. I'm tempted to believe he moved in with Elizabeth.
Or he like bought out part of the house?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay.
Either way, Timothy and his wife didn't settle into a stagnant lifestyle. They were both prepared to work. They both continued. Well, Timothy opened his own little tannery shop in the Holmes basement. He sold leather products as well as blubber, like whale blubber, I'm assuming.
That would smell so bad.
Oh, yeah.
That's because the tanning process smells horrible.
Heinous, yeah.
Whew, okay.
Yeah. And Elizabeth also opened her own little shop, and she sold notions. And what notions are, for those that sew, you probably know this, are like little like buttons, things that you use to sew. I guess you would probably say like bias tape would probably be considered a notion, things like that.
What's that?
Bias tape, it's like binding. So if you think about a quilt, the edging on a quilt, even on like a handbag, if you have like a cloth handbag. So I should put like a little like twinkly transition tone in there. I'm back. I was searching around trying to find something with bias tape, and those of you who are listening to this won't see this, but like this blanket is this edging on the blanket. It's like its own little piece of fabric that is folded over to bind the edge of that. So that's essentially what bias tape is. You see it on quilts a lot, or like properly made, well, I shouldn't say properly made quilts, but like hand sewn quilts, you'll see it a lot on, or machine sewn quilts versus like mass produced quilts.
After you like rummage through my house, there's got to be something in here, goddamn.
There's got to be something in here with bias tape on it. But yeah, so essentially Elizabeth sold things that were like to be helpful in the sewing industry or in like making clothing, that kind of thing. So at this point, you might be asking yourself, the American Revolution, continental currency, what does that have to do with anything?
I was not asking myself that, but thank you.
Well, I'm going to ask it for you, and I'm going to answer you. So there was a major event happening in the history of the United States while Timothy was building his life, and that was the Revolutionary War, or the American Revolution.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
Pretty big deal. I'm going to give a very brief overview here. Like, I promise it's only a couple sentences. I'm not going to give you an overview of the entire war.
And then at Bunker Hill, what was it?
Yep, yeah, Bunker Hill. Bunker Hill. Brief overview of the American Revolution. The war was fought between the years of 1775 and 1783. It was fought over tensions between the 13 North American colonies of Britain and the British government. This war was successful in allowing the colonies to gain their freedom from Britain and form their own country, which became the United States of America. All right.
Do you ever see the George Washington memes of him like crossing the Delaware and someone's like singing like some boats like
what do we do with a drunken sailor?
Yeah. Or like the song from your favorite movie.
Oh God, I'd be if I were George Washington, that guy would be thrown overboard. It's only like 2 centuries early. So stay with me, listeners. This sounds like a random tangent that I'm about to go into, but I promise it's important. So during the American Revolution, the Continental Congress, which acted as the governing agent for the 13 North American colonies, issued what was called continental currency.
And if you want to know more about the leaders of the revolution, just watch Hamilton.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes. This paper currency helped finance the American Revolution. It essentially was paying for the war. And this currency was issued from 1775 through 1779, though they were still in circulation after 1779. However, this currency very quickly lost its value. For one, it was not actually backed by any kind of tangible asset. So in this case, it wasn't backed by its value in like silver or gold. Also, way too much of it was printed. So essentially inflation shot through the roof, and then Britain saw what was happening there and attempted to sabotage the economy even further by printing and distributing even more counterfeit currency. There was a term that came to light in this era, in this moment of history, that said not worth a continental. So, someone would say something, be like, oh, that's not even worth a continental.
Can we bring that back?
I was literally, my next note is
it really?
I will be using this term from now on because I love it. It's the brain cell.
The brain cell.
And you may ask, if the Continental wasn't backed by any kind of physical asset, what was its actual value? What was it backed by?
Can I guess?
Go for it.
Well, hopefully it wasn't tea because I'll end up in the Boston Harbor.
Yeah, no, it wasn't tea.
My brain went to animal pelts. I don't know what that is.
No, it wasn't any kind of anything that you could physically hold in your hand.
Oh, is it like the make-believe food and the hook? You know what we're talking about? The Robin Williams
Yes. No, it's
Hopes and Dreams.
Hopes and Dreams. Actually, yeah, that's about pretty close because it was backed by, quote, future tax revenue expectations.
That sounds like I'm not a money person, so I could be wrong, but that just doesn't sound like
It just sounds fake.
Yes.
Yes. Eventually, it would what they're saying is it would have value in the future when the war was won by the colonists.
Like, we know how the war went because we are talking from the future. Mm-hmm. That's ballsy.
Yes. Yes.
It's a lot of confidence.
Yes.
I wish I was that confident about my life.
Exactly. Right. That's pretty much what I have in my next note here. That's a pretty shaky thing to base an entire country's or future country's currency on. And if the war was lost, there was going to be no tax revenue to back up the value of the money, which would make it completely worthless. But what does this have to do with Timothy Dexter?
Did he do something to back the money?
Not necessarily to back the money.
Did he make the money?
He took a gamble,
Ah.
a pretty big gamble. So there were some well-to-do people that began buying back the continental currency from revolutionaries, which were the people that were like fighting the war, but at like a fraction of what these continental currencies were worth.
Is this kind of how, like, during the Civil War, the Confederacy had their own currency, but it like wasn't real money in the North?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. And remember when I said continental currency had been used to fund the American Revolution? The revolutionaries had been paid in this continental currency, but because it was now essentially worthless because, you know, inflation, the economy is not good, etc., they were pretty impoverished. They were pretty poor. And in buying back this currency, the revolutionaries were able to make a little bit more money to live on. I believe there was like other currency that was being used concurrently with this continental currency. I was a little confused here, but that's the best way I think I am understanding this. Timothy Dexter saw people doing this, and he decided to do it himself as well. When America won the war, surprise, the government... Spoiler alert. The government did back it. The currency was backed. It was at a much lower value than they were originally saying it would be. But even this lower value was way more than Timothy had initially paid for it when he bought it back. So essentially, he became extremely rich overnight.
Good for him.
Yes. So he took a real serious gamble and won. And this began a series of absolutely wild business decisions that would follow him for his entire life. So with his new earnings, Timothy bought a giant mansion and 2 sailing ships to start an export business to countries overseas.
Was the mansion here or was it overseas?
Here. It was here in Newburyport.
Okay.
Where he was currently living. And
maybe that's where the mansion comes in.
That's what I mean. I think what happened was he initially moved in with Elizabeth, and then when they came into, because Elizabeth had money, but I don't think she was like loaded beyond, you know, she wasn't like the richest person in the country or anything like that, or future country. So I think what happened was they moved in together. He moved into her home, and then they both bought this home, if that makes sense, once he came into a windfall.
I can't even imagine having a mansion.
Oh, right? That's so much to clean.
That's what my brain went too. I guess if you can afford a mansion, you can probably afford cleaning people.
No, that's true. That's true. So his sailing ships...
sorry, you can probably afford to hire cleaning people.
Oh, yes.
Let me rephrase that.
Yes. I understand what you're saying. His ships were, I believe this one was pronounced the Mehitable, which I think is really cool, and the Congress. And fun fact, the house that he bought is now the Newburyport Public Library. At this point, he also began to meet some resistance, shall we say, with his peers. Timothy Dexter was, as I said at the top of the video, pretty eccentric, and he had boosted himself into a much richer class of society very, very quickly by making a pretty questionable business choice, or it's a gamble, essentially. And because of this, according to the Mr. Ballen video that I talked about, he wasn't particularly liked by those who would be in his new class, as it were. Allegedly, they encouraged him to do some really stupid things, essentially. One of these things was they encouraged him to send bed warming pans to countries in the Caribbean. And for those who may not know, a bed warming pan is a covered pan on the end of a long handle that you can put coals from a fire in, and you put that under your mattress, which helped to warm it up. So especially in like cold New England towns.
How often did it catch the mattress on fire?
My next note is literally ye old fire hazard.
The brain cell. It is.
It is pinging.
It is pinging.
As you may have already guessed, this is a terrible idea. The Caribbean is a hot country, or a hot region of the world, not country. Bed warmers wouldn't be a great investment to send there. However, luck was again on Timothy's side. While cold may not have been something to be found in countries where the bed warmers were shipped, molasses industry was found there. The bed warming pans were bought not for their intended use, but to be used as ladles for molasses. Apparently, they worked really, really well for that industry. And I saw some things saying like the people that lived in those countries were like, we have no idea what these are. So they, I guess, just started like messing around with them and were like, oh, this happens to work really well. So they sold. And once again, Timothy made a profit, a pretty big profit.
That's just like, it reminds me of something and I can't think of what it is.
So another idea was allegedly was pitched to Timothy, and that was to sell large amounts of coal to the town of Newcastle in England. What Timothy didn't know was that Newcastle was also known as the coal capital of the world. They had a lot of coal there. They did not need to buy coal.
I think the reason I knew that is I feel like it's somehow tied into the Constantine comics.
Oh, that's funny. So as far as I could tell, Timothy wasn't aware of this. He just thought, yeah, I'm going to sell coal to Newcastle.
Newberry is where he is.
Newburyport is where he is.
Okay.
Newcastle.
There's too many news.
Yes, I know. But he shipped it anyway. And he just so happened to ship it during a time of a mining strike in that town. So due to this strike, of course, people were willing to buy this coal up because they didn't have any. They needed it because it was a pretty huge source of like a fuel source at that time. It was heating, it was everything. So the coal sold. Once again, he made a huge profit off of this. And I question, so this was something else that I was pretty consistent throughout my research of, this is obviously so far, this is a wild story, right? Like this man's life is just a roller coaster. A lot of the research focused on the phenomenon of his life versus if he were actually potentially of a shrewd businessman. Because from a lot of the research I saw, it was like, oh, he didn't even know this was the coal capital of the world, which does make sense because he grew up pretty illiterate. Like I can't imagine him being able to like read a newspaper or things like that. But there is also the phrase that was going around at this time, kind of like, oh, that has as much worth as a Continental. Oh, you're doing that? That's like selling coal to Newcastle. Like it's insane. It's silly. So I feel like if that was such a common phrase, he had to have known that wasn't wise. So my question is, did he actually know there was a strike going on at this point? Somehow he knew that, he figured that out, and that's why he decided to sell that coal? Or is it truly just wild luck that, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to ask you this. Would you like to take an absolutely wild guess at yet another business venture that worked in Timothy's favor?
It could literally be anything.
It sure could be, because he decided to sell stray cats.
To who?
Once again, to countries in the Caribbean.
Did they have a lot of cats there already?
They did apparently not. So what happened here? There was a year where Newburyport was having a really, really serious issue with stray cats, to the point where there was actually a town-wide meeting held over whether or not, trigger warning here, that these cats should be essentially rounded up and euthanized. Like it was that bad. And 50% of people said, yes, we need to, quote unquote, get rid of the cats. And the other 50% said, no, we shouldn't do that. Well, Timothy Dexter said nay, at least probably. He stepped forward with a solution, and he offered to pay people to bring him stray cats. And he said, oh, yeah, I'm going to take really, really good care of them. Like, he put a newspaper ad out saying, bring me your stray cats. I'm going to take really good care of them. They'll be, Well, he stuck them on one of his ships and shipped them off once again to the Caribbean. According to Mr. Ballen, he supposedly thought that what the people of the Caribbean, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I know it's Caribbean versus Caribbean. I'm not sure which is the correct. I'm so sorry. But he thought what these people needed most were pet cats. He's like, oh, they're going to love these like little fluffy animals. They're going to be great house pets. I didn't find that anywhere else in my research. I do think Mr. Ballen is a pretty solid researching source, but again, I do want to say that is according to that video. I did not personally find that. But in fact, these people did not need pets. However, what they had was a huge problem on different plantations and warehouses with rats getting into their stores. So they needed mousers.
There we go.
Once again, out of this absolutely insane business endeavor, Timothy made a profit. He just was coming out aces everywhere he went. There were some other business dealings here that wildly worked in his favor. I'm just going to go through them briefly.
Go for it.
He started hoarding whalebone. And at the time that Timothy began stockpiling whalebone, it was actually losing its value. It was kind of like the continental currency. Mm-hmm. But we see how the continental currency worked out in his favor. Whalebone became highly valued in corsetry.
I was going to say, don't they use that for like the boning?
Yep. Synthetic whalebone is used to this day. Mm-hmm. Huh. So that worked out in his favor. He sold gloves to Polynesia, like wool gloves. A hot climate.
Pineapples.
Not pineapples. That's actually a good thought, though. What they were bought up by merchants who then exported them to Siberia.
Oh.
So they were essentially bought, gave him a profit, and then resold. And something to keep in mind here as we're talking about all these crazy business ventures, I kind of touched on this. Timothy was, as far as I'm aware, functionally illiterate. So was he really making all these investments because he understood the implications of them, or was it just dumb luck?
Did he have people around him that could read for him? Like his wife?
Well, that's the other thing, too. That's true.
No.
Roxy says absolutely not. There's nothing saying his wife wasn't reading him the newspaper every morning. I do think it was possible that Timothy was a little more shrewd than he let on. And I'll go into this a little bit later, but it sounds like he was pretty boastful about his knowledge and the idea of investing in weird and off the wall things that didn't seem to make any sense until they ended up paying off.
He was psychic.
Maybe. Who's to say?
He's a fae.
He's a fae. So I do think this is just me kind of like starting to like go into my personal thoughts here, so feel free to jump in anytime.
Go for it.
But I feel like obviously buying the continental currency was definitely a lucky moment because no one could have predicted who was going to win that war. That's just that was a gamble, and it did happen to work out for him. And it very well could have turned out the other way. So I'm wondering if he was just extremely confident, even if that confidence was a little bit misplaced, and it just happened to work in his favor a lot. And also, just because he was, we talked about this, functionally illiterate, doesn't mean he was stupid. Like, some of my sources did indicate that he didn't have any common sense and just managed to, like, bumble his way through things. I really just can't help. The more I read about this guy, the more I read about what he was doing and the decisions he was making, I can't help wondering if that's more to just feed the story a little bit. And I'm not trying to like crash on other people in their own research and their own history. So yeah, I don't know. And I have a little more to talk about that a little bit later too. But I just can't help but wonder how much some of this is like, oh yeah, he was just a bumbling idiot, more to like feed the story of how eccentric he was versus if that was like 100% the truth.
Well, and could that also be kind of a helpful thing that like if he has this persona of like very eccentric other people aren't going to make the same risks he's doing because they think he is off his freaking rocker.
Yes, and that is something that he supposedly, I think it was the Wikipedia article, because I did use Wiki for this, stated, is he was like, yeah, I know people think I'm nuts. But in 1796, Timothy moved his family to New Hampshire, to the town of Chester, possibly to pursue some real estate. And it was here that he started calling himself the Duke of Chester.
That sounds like a character from Alice in Wonderland.
It does. It really does. He also encouraged others around him to call him Lord Dexter.
What? And you can call me Lord Dexter.
Yes. He literally was he decided, I am a lord now. And he used that title regularly throughout the rest of his life.
He's a self-appointed lord.
He's a self-appointed lord. And he encouraged people to call him this through straight up bribery.
If you call me Lord Dexter, I'll give you one of those Caribbean cats.
He'll give you a Caribbean. No, he would give children. I think they said he'd give them like I guess probably like the equivalent back then of like a quarter. Like he'd give them a little piece of money, and if adults called him that, he'd be like, "You can come to my house for dinner and drinks."
A Caribbean cat sounds like a drink.
It does.
Come to my house for a Caribbean cat.
Come on to my house for a Caribbean cat.
We have to invent a drink called a Caribbean cat.
Oh, I feel like it has to have. Oh, do you want to
Malibu?
Yeah, it has to have Malibu, pineapple juice. It has to be very fruity and like light tasting. It was also at this point in his life that he was beaten up by a lawyer. Like physically assaulted.
That's not how court normally works.
No.
Or maybe, I don't know.
I don't know exactly where this was. I think it was in the street. Timothy was, sounds like he was a little bit of a womanizer.
Like, did he go after this lawyer's wife, girlfriend?
Yes, he was
daughter, mother.
He was making overtures on this lawyer's wife.
That sounds like a bad idea.
Yes. So he got the snot beat out of him.
Not that you should go after anyone's spouse, but I feel like a lawyer's spouse is probably one of like... I mean, I'd be more afraid of legal action and not getting the snot beat out, but like...
Yes. The lawyer just skipped the legal action, shockingly, and he just beat the crap out of him.
I am the law. I am the Senate.
I am the Senate. So eventually, Timothy moved back to Newburyport. I believe it was after this incident of him being physically assaulted by another man. And he bought another mansion.
So we were at mansion either 2 or 3 at this point.
Yes. I don't think he owned them concurrently. I think like the one was sold and then he bought a different house in New Hampshire and then he sold that house and bought this mansion. I believe. Don't quote me.
What if he just bought the same mansion twice?
Yeah, really. He was quite lavish in decorating this mansion. It included a golden eagle on top of the cupola, a mausoleum, and perhaps most strange, a bunch of wooden statues that he had all over his front yard.
What were they of?
Well, he had 40 wooden statues commissioned of various historical figures for his statue garden. There were U.S. presidents, kings, congressmen, among others. I believe there were Native Americans depicted as well. Napoleon Bonaparte, I think, was in there. So like just different, like huge historical figures.
We should get wooden statues of everyone that we've covered, but the biggest one's going to be Washington Irving.
Yes, absolutely.
And Charles Dickens.
Yep. Oh, we should make some of Daddy.
And Anderson.
Yes.
It's like we'll make an altar. Like, put it next to my candles, and we'll make an altar to Anderson at my house. And
Absolutely.
And an altar to Daddy.
Yes.
I can't do that voice, even when I am this. Even when my voice is like this.
Oh, no. That's okay. He also, of course, had to have a statue of himself, because why not? On the bottom of the statue was the quote, and this is in every source I looked at. This stated, "I am the first in the East, I am the first in the West, and the greatest philosopher in the Western world."
So, like, he didn't think highly of himself or anything.
No, not at all. So Timothy's life behind closed doors was just as much of a roller coaster as it was on the outside.
Oh, no.
Yeah. For one, there were issues with his marriage.
You know? Is it rude to say that doesn't surprise me?
No. His wife allegedly had a temper. Timothy had a tendency to look at other women, and he was a drinker.
Did she have a temper, or did he act in ways that were not a good partner, and then she got angry?
That was exactly my thought too. I'm like, and it's like I'm not trying to like cast blame on anyone,
yeah.
but it's still like, I don't know. Is it like you said, did she really have that bad of a temper, or was she just really frustrated watching her husband look at other women, coming home drunk? You know, yeah.
Everyone has a window of tolerance, and there are things that'll push us out of it.
Exactly. I don't want to go too deep into this now because there is another part of the story where this will tie in. But at one point, Timothy started refusing to even recognize that his wife was, in fact, a living person.
What?
He called her a ghost. Whenever anyone would call him out on it and be like, there's literally your wife is standing right behind you, he'd be like, that's a ghost.
Do we think he might have had some kind of like psychosis disorder?
I don't know.
Or is he just being a dick?
I think it's more. So I actually want to go into this a little further later.
Put a pin in it?
I feel like, yeah, let's put a pin in it. I feel like narcissism personally, but we'll get there. So he and his wife had 2 children together, Samuel and Nancy.
So there's 6 total.
6 total. I don't know anything about the children of the first marriage. It was actually kind of sad. I didn't read anything in any of my research about them, which maybe if they didn't have a lot of ties to this family was possibly a good thing.
So wait, she was 32.
Yes.
So she would have been in her mid to late 30s by the time, like, which
bless her.
Well, you're considered like you're not old in your mid 30s.
No,
because I'm almost there. I guess trigger warning for female reproductive system stuff.
Yeah.
Like the viability, is that the word I want?
Maybe.
Of your eggs starts to decrease after 35. So that's why any pregnancy over 35 is considered higher risk because the body isn't supporting the pregnancy as well, and the eggs are older.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you're old.
Right, exactly. Pregnancy is just, even a healthy, no complications pregnancy is just hard on
your body.
you. Yeah.
Even if you're like very, very young.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So.
And you can be in that like quote unquote childbearing age, under 35, and you can still have high risk pregnancies.
Yes, absolutely.
For whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's female reproductive talk with Brie.
It does sound like the relationships that he had with Samuel and Nancy were not fantastic. He wanted Samuel to become educated, but instead Samuel seemed to follow in his father's footsteps. I don't know what I just said there. Seemed to follow in his father's footsteps into drinking. At one point, Timothy agreed to let Samuel take one of his sailing ships to distribute cargo in England. Samuel gambled it all away instead. And as to Nancy, to quote, this is a direct quote from the New England Historical Society website, and this is harsh, friends. I don't like this. I'm reading this out loud. She had, quote, beauty but no brains, which I'm like, oh, don't love that.
That's rough.
Yeah, that's really rough.
Beauty but no. Oh.
Yeah, that's pretty nasty.
Yeah.
She married a man who turned out to be quite abusive, unfortunately, and their marriage collapsed. Nancy, unfortunately, also took to drinking as well. And again, a quote from the New England Historical Society website, Nancy returned home where her family shut her away. And I'm not sure really if they just kind of she was just kind of kept by them.
I mean, you ever heard of like a disappointment room?
Yeah.
That's kind of where my brain went, though. It's like when people would have family members that were having mental challenges or cognitive or even like addiction, especially for a woman, right? Mm. It's like they would kind of just get
shunned and locked away so that they were seen as embarrassment to a family, which is like, that's so sad.
I think, speaking of Judy, she just messaged me.
Oh, hey Judy.
I'm pretty sure her and I watched the Disappointment Room movie together, and it was super sad.
I've never heard of that movie.
I don't think I'm making that up.
Is it a documentary?
No, it's like a historical fiction.
Okay. Yeah, that's the vibe I got, is that she was just kind of embarrassment, which is like, come on, y'all.
One of the rare times we didn't choose a horror movie, but like it was like horror because it was real.
Yeah. Yes.
She picks, I'll ask her before I get in. It's become a running thing. She like picks the worst horror movies.
Yeah.
I've told you about that, right?
Yes.
they're like entertaining.
Yes. Yeah, honestly, this is just a sad story with that all around. Timothy also struggled with wanting to be accepted by New England's high society, which, to be blunt, he was not. He was not even remotely accepted by these people. I touched on that earlier. He made that huge gamble with the continental currency, and it thrust him into a much higher class of society. People didn't like that kind of deal. I also found that Elizabeth's family had some status, as they had there was a governor in her family, and the article said it's possible that they looked down on him. I have to wonder if they actually did look down on him, which is very possible. You know, he came from such poor means. They might have just found like he's not good enough for our family. He's not good enough for our daughter, etc.
Could you imagine though? So let's say you have a daughter, and she marries this guy who is like eccentric AF, and he's like selling stray cats to the Caribbean, and like. I think I would also question that a little bit. Like,
yes,
like it keeps working out, but like,
kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop and like waiting to see your daughter end up in like severe poverty or something.
Yeah,
yeah. And especially, I think in still in today's society, but especially in this society of this era, like class was everything. So, and we talked about before, he was pretty boastful and prideful. I think there was indication of some kind of mental illness here. Per, again, the New England Historical Society website, there was a quote, Timothy Dexter claimed he grew increasingly, quote unquote, nervous, which
nervous or paranoid?
The word they used was nervous, but that also could have been that era's word for anxious, paranoid. Hypervigilant, yes. I imagine he felt very alone, and even he, even if he was very shrewd in his business dealings, like knowing, like, okay, this is really unusual, but I can see, I'm going to use the cats as an example. Like, okay, I know this is really, really weird. I'm shipping cats off to the Caribbean, but this should work out because they need mousers for their plantations. They need mousers for their warehouses, etc. It's still a business venture. There's still a possibility this might not work out. So he could have had all that pressure on him on top of knowing like a lot of these people don't like me, even though, at least in his mind, I'm working extremely hard to meet these people's standards, I guess. I don't know. I think he was very, very alone, and then but maybe at the same time didn't do much to ingratiate himself.
When we get to the end, I remember what this reminds me of. Oh, okay. The trigger word is DuckTales.
DuckTales. Okay. So, yeah, I don't know if there was some kind of, because I have sympathy for him I'm making up a whole backstory for this guy that could be complete BS, but I have sympathy for how he probably or quite possibly felt, feeling very, very alone and very isolated, in his marriage. But at the same time, it's like, okay, well, you're drinking heavily, you're looking at other women, no wonder your wife's not real happy with you. I understand that you're working really hard on your business ventures, but you're also boasting and being very, very prideful about it. You're not really doing anything to help yourself either. So it's just a weird, that's why I said earlier, I'm like, narcissism?
I mean,
question mark?
Like, we're not diagnosing someone.
No.
But I do wonder, falling within like one of the personality disorders, or even like he's somehow really lucked out, and even like a psychosis disorder. Yeah. And just lucked out with like it helped him. Yeah. It's because there's like schizotypal, like there's a bunch of things on the schizophrenia spectrum that aren't schizophrenia.
So maybe.
But and a lot of people who end up using alcohol and substances are self-medicating. Yeah. So if he was having like some kind of mania or hypomanic or some kind of psychosis symptoms, he might have been medicating that. By drinking.
True. And of course, ye old 1700s, there was...
Have some opium.
Yeah. You have a tummy ache? Have some opium for that.
Do some coke about it.
Do some cocaine about it. Yeah.
That was after that.
Yeah, I guess that was after that. Laudanum?
Opium, though.
Opium. Opium, though. Opium.
Have some poppy seeds.
Yeah. I'm going to go into his later years here. After all that he had been through in his life at 50 years old, Timothy decided he wanted to strike into a new venture.
Oh, what per se? Pertel? What's the word I want there?
What per se is that?
What per se is that?
Or pray tell?
What pray tell is that?
What pray tell is that? If you guessed, becoming a published author, congratulations.
Is he going to write books about the cats?
Well, Timothy authored his own short book, A Pickle for the Knowing Ones, which was apparently more or less a platform where he just complained about a bunch of things. His wife,
like
the
Twitter.
government. Huh?
It's like Twitter.
Yes, it was
I'm
his
not on
version of
Twitter.
Twitter. Neither one of us are. Remember when I said that he left school at age 8?
Yes.
Well, the book was filled with incorrect spellings, grammar, and most notably, no punctuation. And admittedly, now here, things were spelled differently back then. And there were, I don't know how far this went into quote unquote modern day.
Yeah.
But I know, especially going back, I want to say even into like the medieval times, a lot of things were spelled phonetically. So the same word could be spelled by multiple different ways by multiple different people, depending on what area you were in.
It's after the medieval time too.
Yeah, this is after that. So
Well, I'm saying, like, do you ever have to read the Fairy Queen?
No, I did not.
They spell giant 3 different ways in the same page. I remember
Right.
reading that in like AP English, and I was like,
When was that written? Not sure.
1600s.
Okay, something like that. So I'm not sure how far forward that continued, but it's, so it is possible that some of these were just his way of spelling things. That was the accepted way to spell things. But fun fact, I thought I would try to use this book for my research for this article, or for this episode.
1590.
1590. Okay.
I was close.
You were close. Yeah. I got about what I would call 2 sentences in, except it's not really sentences because there's no joke. There is no punctuation.
2 lines.
2 lines in. I couldn't do it. It was spelled, everything was spelled so badly.
Do you actually have it?
You can find it. I have it linked. You can find it and you can read it online.
I want to see how far I make it.
It's bad, dude. Timothy got a little bit salty about people's complaints on not having punctuation, because when the second edition of A Pickle for the Knowing Ones was released, Timothy included a page filled with literally nothing but random punctuation marks. Like I'm talking like lines and lines and lines of periods.
Do you know what this reminds me of? Do you know why the follow-up... Here we go. The follow-up way.
Hi-yo.
Do you know why Thanks for the Memories is spelled that way?
No.
Because people complained their titles were too long, so they took out all the vowels.
That's amazing. I love it.
It's so passive-aggressive. I love it.
Yes. Well, Timothy Dexter did the same thing because he had this punctuation page, which, again, you can find this online. So if you want to look it up, check out the show notes. Check out our references. But he left the note, quote, "They may pepper and salt it as they please. They, T-H-A-Y, may pepper, P-E-P-E-R, and salt, S-O-L-T, it as they, spelled T-H-E-Y, please.
It's like reading the zodiac letters.
P-L-E-S-E. Yes, it is.
Was he... Has anyone made that connection before?
I don't know. It's wild. It's wild. This was referring to the reader being able to just insert the punctuation in wherever they wanted. So he said, "Oh, you want to complain? Here you go." Because why not?
That is a level of pet. Okay,
That's a power move.
I'm not saying this to be mean, but he like made a fortune.
He did.
But he couldn't it never occurred to him to like learn to read.
Learn to read,
right?
No, I guess not.
I guess he didn't need to apparently.
Yeah.
Publishing a book is a ballsy move though.
Yes. And it went into 8 different printings.
Really?
Yes. Some of them have opening essays by different authors. The one that I linked has one of these later. I forget which edition it is, but it's reprinted in the exact same way. And then it just has like the author's essay and some like notes and appendixes added to the back. But the book itself, the meat of it is exactly the same. So if you're brave, guys,
We should dramatically read it and just see how
I'll
get like every line will switch.
Yes, we'll try.
Every page, I don't know.
So Timothy didn't stop there with the wild things he did with his life. Close to the end, Timothy decided he was going to fake his own death.
Of course, why not?
Of course, why not?
Why not?
Because he wanted to see how people would react. And I was both shocked and not at all shocked by this number.
That doesn't surprise me that he's faked his own death. But go ahead.
Yes, 3,000 people showed up at this fake wake.
Did he like make it like a surprise?
Well,
Is that what happened?
The fact that 3,000 people showed up wasn't enough to please Timothy because he decided that his wife was not sad enough, or at least not showing enough emotion at his so-called funeral. Trigger warning, domestic violence. Afterwards, when he revealed the hoax, he beat his wife over her lack of sadness towards him. So yes and no.
Holy, oh my God.
And this is where the Mr. Ballen video stated he started calling his wife a ghost. Like I said, when like people would come over and his wife would just doing whatever she was doing in the house, and people would be like, Timothy, your wife is right there. She's not dead. And be like, oh, no, that's a ghost.
So she's dead to him. She's dead to him.
Yeah. That's why I say, like,
holy Stromboli.
I don't know that he was necessarily hallucinating it. I think he was just
being petty.
Being an asshole.
No, okay, with that context.
Yes. But my one source indicated that he started calling his wife a ghost before this fake funeral. This is, again, one of those weird, like, timeline things where I was like, wait, when did this exactly start happening? So either way, I think he was kind of just being an ass.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
But at age 59, on October 26, 1806, Timothy Dexter actually did pass away.
Are we sure?
For real this time.
Are we sure?
We are sure. Ending a lifetime of wild eccentricity and business dealings.
What did he die of?
It didn't say. I think it might have just been natural causes.
I'm not convinced.
No. He's still roaming around.
He's just with his Caribbean cats. Yeah. Holy Stromboli.
So that, my friends, is the absolutely wild story, wild life of Timothy Dexter.
That, in fact, was very wild. Do you want to hear my thought?
Yes, I do. Closing thoughts.
Okay, I know what it reminded me of. Have you ever watched DuckTales?
I have not.
DuckTales. Woo-hoo. Okay, so like the main gist of DuckTales. I can't believe you've never watched DuckTales. Anyways,
I want to. David Tennant's.
The new ones and the ones from our childhood are a little bit different. I actually do like the new ones a lot, but I like the old ones too. So like the gist of DuckTales is you have Scrooge McDuck, who is this eccentric, wealthy, could, you know, all of the money. The world economy is controlled by a magic coin that he has, and that's like part of why he's so wealthy.
Oh, is he a bad guy?
No, not really.
Oh,
but he's more of the good guy. But he has this magic coin that controls the economy, and that is how he is so wealthy.
So Scrooge McDuck is just giving Timothy Dexter all his...
I think Timothy Dexter had his own version of a magic coin. Like, that's what it reminds me of, though.
It does. That's crazy.
How have you not seen DuckTales?
I know. I haven't seen anything.
Lord. So then you probably never saw, like, Tailspin or, like... Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers or Darkwing Duck.
I've heard of all of them. Okay, so I need to remember exactly when in my childhood we stopped paying for cable, because I do remember like having the Disney Channel up to a certain time and like Nickelodeon and like different ones like that. But I know we stopped paying for it fairly early in my childhood.
Darkwing Duck and DuckTales were from the late 80s, early 90s, so they would have been on.
Yeah, they would have been on. I think I remember seeing them and hearing about them. I just never watched them. But I was also like, not Disney movies so much, and we can cut this out if this is too much of me rambling. I was a little like borderline shamed almost for watching cartoons.
Oh no.
Like not Disney movies or anything like that, but like, you know, the Disney Channel, they had like the spin-offs of like Hercules and
Little
of
Mermaid
course,
and
and of course they're not going to be as, I mean, I'm not trying to be snotty here. If anyone likes these shows, like what you like, not necessarily as good as the
I don't
movies.
know.
And that's the thing.
I liked the Aladdin show a lot.
Oh really? Oh, I don't remember Aladdin.
I liked Gargoyles too.
I vaguely remember Gargoyles. Also, I found out recently Keith David is in Gargoyles, so now I need to watch it.
You know what he is?
Because Keith David. David come on the show.
Anyways, I don't know how you haven't. Okay, so we have to watch Twilight.
Yeah.
And DuckTales.
And DuckTales. I do want to watch. But yeah, I was like little, like kind of borderline shamed for watching cartoons, and I thought I basically learned to convince myself they were dumb for the longest time. Like people be like, "Oh, do you watch Scooby Doo?" That's dumb.
I love Scooby Doo.
Does
that surprise you at all?
No. I feel like I missed out.
I'm pretty sure that our good friend Timmy D has had found the coin from DuckTales.
I think he did. I have to agree with that.
When you explain how that works, like the magic coin, it sounds really random.
I'm excited to watch it.
Okay, that was my thoughts.
All right. Should we do questions?
Sure. And you're going to just get them off the top of your brain like I do.
Sure am.
What drew you to this topic?
The Mr. Ballen video, because I saw it and I literally, and I don't mean this in a bad way because I'm not saying like, oh, go beat your wife or anything. Like I'm not, please don't think that. But when I first watched this video, I ended up just laughing hysterically because I was like, the dude faked his death, got mad at his wife, then started calling her a freaking ghost. I was like, who is this man? What is happening? And I wanted to this was a couple years ago when I found this was like before we started Something Strange. I found this video, and I was like, I think it was before we started Something Strange. I was like, I want to do more research into this guy because it's a little bit different than we usually cover. It's not so much the spooky realm, but it's just freaking weird.
It is just freaking weird.
So, Mr. Ballen, thank you. Come on the show. I'm inviting everyone on the show today.
Everyone on the show. Was there anything you wish you could have researched more into?
Not necessarily. I yes and no, because I wish I could have researched more into like when certain things actually happened, but I don't know how much documentation is actually the whole like funeral thing. It's wild. Like when did that? And I also saw things that indicated that might have been fabricated to push the narrative of his like craziness, but I think it also I'm not sure. So I guess just getting a little more solid detail, but I don't know how much I would actually find.
Fair enough. Yeah. And what did you find the most strange about this topic?
Everything. Like,
I was like, how do you choose?
This dude's life is just freaking wild. I think the fact that he was this has still stuck with me to this day. The fact that he was just walking around looking at this living human being living in his house, or well, they were living together in their house, and just being like, that's a ghost. Like, okay.
Man, husband of the year.
And I promise, guys, I'm not laughing at that because it's funny. Because that's abusive.
Ridiculous.
That's nasty. But it is. It's insane.
Ridiculous.
What the hell? So,
all right. So that wraps up our deep dive into the very interesting life of Timothy Dexter. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a suggestion for a strange or mysterious topic, a comment about an episode, or just want to chat, please reach out.
You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, and YouTube. Comment directly on episodes on Spotify and YouTube, or leave a review of the podcast as a whole on either Spotify or Apple Podcasts.
Find us on Instagram at something_strange_pod, on Facebook at Something Strange Podcast. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at something_strange_pod, and check out our strange content over at TikTok at somethingstrangepod01.
You can also send us a Gmail at somethingstrangepod24@gmail.com, and the 24 is numeric. Well, strangers, it's time for us to part ways.
Until we meet again, be thankful when luck is in your favor.
We'll be back again soon with another
Something Strange. Wow. Just wow.
I just threw my phone on the ground. I said, I don't need a script anymore.
I have it all memorized.
Yeah.
Get away from me, phone.
Get away from me.
Some stories stay with you. The ones that make you glance over your shoulder, check the doors locked a second time, or laugh a little too loudly in the dark. That's the world of Kill Me Maybe. Every month, hosts Mac and Des unravel true crime, strange mysteries, and eerie tales that linger long after the episode ends. They're the ghouls next door, not detectives, but sharp enough to ask the questions and cheeky enough to keep it fun. Spooky season never ends here. Subscribe to Kill Me Maybe wherever you get your podcasts. Mac and Des are waiting, and you don't want to keep them waiting.